Hey everyone, and welcome to this guide on high alching for profit. I made a couple of these videos back last year and I wanted to do an update just because the nature rune is not at its all-time high, but it's getting back up there. I think it's got something to do with the bots being banned and Guardians of the Rift and everything kind of being more just player based. I know it's still got a lot of bots in it, but it's less. And currently nature runes are hovering around 180 to 200 GP per. So what we're going to do is we're going to say the nature rune is 200 GP just to make it easy for math. And I'm just going to go over a bunch of items, pay to play and free to play items that will make you money. We're going to be going over high volume items, some random items that are in between high volume but still good profit, and then items that are just extremely high profit but not, you can only buy a certain amount. So and yeah, basically you can get roughly around 1,200 alchs per hour, and each alch is 55 experience. So you're getting about 60,000 experience an hour doing that. And especially free to play, that's pretty good experience, and again, way to make a bond. So let's get into it. So we're going to start with the pay to play item that has a high volume, and this is going to be a guide for people that don't have a ton of money, but some of these items will be a little bit expensive. And the first one we're going to start with is the air battle, and basically this has a high alch value of 9,300. It has a buy limit of 18,000, and it's usually traded around 2.3 million times a day, and it looks like it is currently selling for 8,926. And usually you can let these sit overnight and get it cheaper, anywhere from like 8,850. So you can save like an extra 100 GP there. But if you get it for around 89.26 with 200 GP per nature rune, you're going to be making roughly around 180 GP per alch. Again, this is also saying if you can get it for this price or lower. So it's still a pretty good money maker. The next items I wanted to touch on are going to be the longbows. These are a little bit cheaper. Magic is around 1,174, and then the U longbow is the other one, and this one is usually around 530. And when you can purchase for these prices, the magic longbow has an alch value of 1536, and the U longbow has an alch value of 768. They both have a buy limit of 18,000, and they're traded over 7 million times a day. Each one. So this is a good one where you can buy a lot up front and again let it sit overnight if you like. But as you see here, 530 for the U longbow. When you add the 200 GP for the alch, you're going to be making roughly around 40 GP per alch on this item. Again, this is another one that's very easy to get, and with the magic longbow you're going to be looking at a little bit more, about 150 to 200 GP, again depending on the price that you can get it for. One item that's gone, it went down quite a bit when we had Desert Treasure 2 come in, and that is going to be the javelin heads. And these are a pretty good money maker overall. You're going to be able to purchase these pretty cheap, and they have a buy limit of 10,000 every 4 hours and 2.5 million times traded a day, which isn't bad at all. And when we collect here, as you see, we get them for 833 for the dragon and 523 for the rune. So when you add the 200 GP per nature rune, you're going to be making roughly around 100 GP for the rune and 200 GP for the dragon. And again, this is just saying if the nature rune is 200 GP. Currently it's sitting at 171, so I just wanted to go on the higher end. So you're going to be making a little bit more money, and these are pretty common, so you shouldn't have any issues buying these. And the last high volume items that I wanted to talk about for paid to play are going to be the diamond bracelets, the ruby bracelets, and the abyssal bracelet. Personally, my favorite is the abyssal bracelet. Not too many people know about this item, and there's usually a very high profit margin. So all three of these bracelets have a buy limit of 10,000. And the diamond bracelet is traded roughly around 700,000 times a day, ruby around 200,000 times, and the abyssal bracelet around 134,000. Now, with these prices, I was able to pick up the diamond bracelet for $19.27 and the ruby for $11.02. And at these prices, with the cost of nature runes, you're going to be making roughly around 150 to 200 GP for the diamond. Ruby is going to be roughly around 100 to 150 GP. I paid a little more money than I usually would for the abyssal bracelet, but $21.85, and at high alchs for $25.20. So even with nature runes being 200 GP, you're going to be making close to 200 GP per alch for the abyssal bracelet. And again, it's one of my favorite ones because it will go down quite a bit, sometimes under 2100. So if you can get them for that price overnight, you're going to be making closer to around 300 to 350 GP per alch. So some of the free-to-play items that have a high volume are going to be the jewelry pieces, the necklaces mainly, and the rings. So I just did a quick buy on these. You can usually let them sit overnight a little bit lower. But currently the diamond necklace alchs for $22.05 and you can get it for around $19.59. The ruby necklace alchs for $13.05 and you can get it for around $1,055. The emerald necklace alchs for $8.55 and you can get it for around $6.35. And the sapphire necklace is $4.31 that you can buy for, and it alchs for $6.30. So again, these are just quick buys, but you can buy up to 18,000 at a time, and they're usually traded pretty often. Diamonds are 450,000, rubies are 2.1 million, emeralds are 700,000, and sapphires are 1.5 million. So if you needed to choose a necklace, I would go with ruby or sapphire, just for the simple fact that you're still going to be making a good amount of profit per each one, and you won't have any problems buying it. Diamond, you're going to be making roughly around 60 GP per alch. Ruby, you're going to be usually making around 50 to 60 GP per alch. Emeralds, you're going to be making only about 30 GP per alch. And the sapphires, which are the cheapest, you're going to be making roughly around 30 to 50 GP per alch. My advice, just be let it sit overnight. And again, this is at nature runes being 200. Currently, I'm making closer to around 100 GP on some of these alchs. So the next items are going to be some of the rings. These have a buy limit of 10,000 and they're traded a little bit less compared to the necklaces. The ruby rings is traded roughly around 86,000 times, diamond ring 70,000 times, and the forging ring 16,000 times. Now, I did a quick buy again on these just because just wanted to show you a point, but the ruby ring alchs for $12.15 and I paid $10.75 for it. So on this item, unfortunately, typically the ring drops under $950 overnight, sometimes even as low as $900. So if you can scoop it up for that overnight, you're going to be making roughly around 100 GP per alch. The ring of forging, it alchs for the same price, $12.15. I paid just under $1,000 for it. This is going to be making roughly around 20 to 30 GP per alch, with nature runes being 200. And the diamond ring alchs for $21.15 and I quick bought it for $1,900. So that means with nature runes being 200 GP, you're going to be making roughly around 15 to 20 GP per alch if you quick spot this. Again, these items are better if you leave them overnight or just let them slow sell. Now I wanted to go ahead and go over some items that are traded quite a bit less, but they still have a decent margin on some of them. And they are random and these may change later on, but these items are going to be the sets. More specifically, I wanted to show you the blue d'hide set and the pieces in general. So currently the set is buying for $10,300 and this would include a body, chaps, and bracers. The body has a GE value of 49.26 currently, but it has a high alch value of 56.16. So even without buying the set, you're going to be making roughly around 300 GP to 400 GP per alch. The blue chaps, I bought them for $2,300 roughly, and they alch for $25.92. So that's going to be making me roughly around 100 GP per alch. And the van braces, I'm going to be breaking even roughly. They're currently going for $1,600 and they alch for $1,800. Again, this is nature runes being at 200 GP. And the set is going for $10,300. Currently, it is cheaper to buy the pieces individually in high alch. And another way to make money is to combine the items and you can sell it as a set. This is something to keep in mind just because both the set and the individual pieces have a buy limit of 125. Individually right now, it's better to buy the pieces and alch them just because you're going to be making more money that way. But you may also want to combine the sets and sell the set if you'd like, or you can also buy the sets cheaper when they are usually a little bit cheaper. Sometimes it looks like they go down around 5,000 to 6,000 GP sometimes. So that's just another way to look at it and try to make money. On the free to play side, there is quite a bit of items that have a buy limit of 125, and these are some of the plate bodies and a lot of addy items. So on screen, I quick bought all these. I don't advise doing this. I just wanted to show that you can easily make money alching and not have to wait. But just going over some of the items, the Addy longsword we paid $15.34, and it high alchs for $19.20, and it has roughly around 10,000 traded a day. So with 200 GP per nature rune, you're going to be making roughly around 200 GP per alch on this item. The plate legs I paid $33.96 for, and it is traded roughly around 18,000 times, and it high alchs for $38.40. So we are currently making roughly around 240 GP on this item. The adamant kite shield alchs for $32.64, and it's traded 21,000 times a day. So this one we're not making as much, but we're still making roughly around 50 to 60 GP per alch. The plate bodies, the adamant plate bodies we pay $93.78 for, and it alchs for $99.84. I know this is an expensive item, but if you have the money to invest, this is definitely a good way to make money. It is 200 GP for the nature rune, so we're looking at just under 9,600, and we would almost be making 300 GP to 350 GP per alch on that item. The adamant two-handed sword alchs for $38.40 and is traded 24,000 times a day. And with the price that we paid of $3,600, we're going to be making roughly around 40 to 50 GP on this. So it's definitely one of those things where, you know, this item you may want to buy a little bit later or overnight at a lower price. The green d'hide body alchs for $46.80, and we paid under $4,200 for it. So this one we're making quite a bit of profit on, almost 300 GP per alch on the green d'hide bodies. The steel bodies, they are pretty low, actually really low when I think about it for the cost of it. It's $8.59 for each plate body, and it alchs for $1,200, and they usually have roughly around 300,000 times traded a day. So you're making just under 200 GP per alch with the steel plate bodies. And the mithril plate bodies I paid just under $2,800, and it has a high alch for $31.20 with 250,000 times traded a day. That means I'm making roughly around 120 GP per alch. So these free-to-play items are easy to get. Again, this is quick bought. And if you have the money, obviously the adamant plate body is probably the best bet. But even if you don't, the steel plate body is pretty good margin. The green d'hide is pretty good margin. Even the Addy longsword currently is a pretty good margin. And just a quick thing, if you could subscribe, that'd be awesome. You'd be helping out a dad, which I really appreciate. And you'll be able to see any kind of guides I put out. I also have a new series coming out where I'm trying to complete the entire boss completions log. If you need a series to watch, I suggest subscribing and check it out. Alright, and these items are going to be more along the lines of the most profit per alch, but you can only buy 70 at a time. Sorry for the nugget in the background. She's very talkative today. But these items you can only buy 70 of, and they will make you the most profit per alch. Most of these I bought for just regular medium G price. Some of them I went a little bit higher on, like the Dragon Halberd and the Black d'hide body, but we will still make a good amount of profit on each of them. So, getting into it. So the Dragon Skirt, it alchs for 120k along with the Dragon Plate Legs, and as you can see, we basically picked them up for under 161,200. So that means with the 200 cost for the nature rune, we're going to be making close to 600 GP per alch. Some of these you can get cheaper if you let them sit overnight, just like everything else, but that's what we got it for the medium price, and it only took like a minute to buy. They each have roughly around a 30K trade limit, so you shouldn't have any problems hitting this 70 buy limit every 4 hours. The Black D High Body is another solid one. It's actually really cheap. Picked up for 7,300, so that means total cost is 75, but it alks for 8,088. So we'll be making 588 to 600 GP per alk on this one, and it is traded a lot, 450,000 times a day. So this is a solid item to get, and you shouldn't have any problem hitting the limit on it. The other three items, the Dragon Battle Axe, the Dragon Halberd, and the Rune Halberd, they're traded a little less, roughly around 15,000 times a day. And the Dragon Halberd has a high alk value of 150,000. So currently, with the cost of nature runes, we'd be making around 800 GP per alk. With the Rune Halberd, it has a high alk value of 38,400. So unfortunately, only about 200 GP per alk on that one. And the Dragon Battle Axe alks for 120K, so we'll be making closer to around 650 GP per alk on that one. And finally, we'll have the High Profit free-to-play items. Again, all of these have a buy limit of 70, and the rune items are traded quite often compared to the dragon items, so you should be able to hit the buy limit pretty easily on this, and they are pretty cheap. So again, I bought them all for mid price, and it literally took a minute to do so. And we'll start with the Rune Longsword. Rune Long has a 95,000 trade limit, or has a 95,000 trade volume per day, and we've got it for 18,554, and it alks for 19,200. So that means that we should be making roughly around 450 GP per alk on this. The Rune Kite has a volume traded of 146,000, and it alks for 32,640. So when you take into consideration nature runes, we are going to be making close to 500 GP per alk on that. The Rune Plate Body alks for 39,000, and it has a trade volume of 100,000. So with the cost of everything, you're looking at about 400 GP profit per alk on that one. And then the Plate Skirt and Plate Legs both have a high alk value of 38,400 and are traded roughly around 34,000 times a day. With that being said, we should be making roughly around 500 GP per alk on each one of those. The other two items, the Rune Full Helm and the Rune Chain Body, both usually drop in price at night because they're so common drops from certain monsters. So with the Rune Full Helm, we picked it up for 20,476, and when you add the cost of nature runes, and with a high alk value of 21,120, you're going to be making roughly around 450 GP per alk on that one. And then the Rune Chain Body high alks for 30,000. So nice simple math here. Cost of nature rune 29,600 means 400 GP profit on that. So in all, you're making roughly around 400 to 600 GP for free-to-play items. Alright, so here are all the pay-to-play items, and here is the trade limit for each of them. I have them grouped together in order of trade limit, and here are the amounts that you'll make per alk on each item. And as you can see, some of them are pretty good, some of them aren't as good. And when you break it down in the hourly profit, which is about 12,000 alks an hour, you can see if you're looking for items that have a high quantity, you're going to be looking for the items above the line, and that's going to be their average GP per hour. And if you're looking to make the most money per item, you're going to be looking below the line. And the great thing about the items below the line is you can combine them. Since they have such a low trade limit, you shouldn't have any problem getting those within the 4 hours, so you can buy all of them and then some of the higher traded items. But basically, if you bought all the items below the line, you're looking at about 865 items. You're looking at about 326,000 to 360,000 GP per hour. And then on the free-to-play side, again, I broke it down into the trade limit. We have all the items here and their profit per alk. These items you're not going to make nearly as much just because they're free to play, but this is a good way for you to get a bond and start off. And if you bought all the profitable items, combine them, you're gonna be making about 390,000 GP per hour. This is more than the pay-to-play items, but this is also about 350 more items, so that's something to take into consideration. And then if you just wanted, you know, as much money and GP and experience as you can get, then I would buy the items mainly focused on the dragon and rune, and then I'd probably say the dragon javelins and the abyssal bracelets. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a good day. Thanks.